What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Inside the Five. It's Will.
And it's Grip.
Today we'll be talking about the Red Sox, a little bit of the NBA. We had two playoff games and the NFL draft from this weekend. Also, no stop at the moment. He will be joining us later in the episode. But what do we say?
Let's go.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Five. We are going to start with the Red Sox. Me and Griff are both very, very upset at the Red Sox right now. We are currently 9-14, and we have lost, I think, every series except for the Twins, which was our opening day at Fenway series.
Yeah.
We just lost the series to the Orioles, in probably the most embarrassing fashion ever.
It's bad. It's really bad. We're not one game. We're half a game ahead of the Orioles right now. We had a 3-game slate against them. We took game 1, and I was like, here we go. Like, it's the perfect time to heat up. We're playing the Orioles. Like, let's get some momentum. Let's sweep these guys. Like, we're way better than the Orioles, right? And game 2, we went out, we lost. It's like, all right, let's just go out, win this series.
Can we talk about game 2 for a second, though? Because
yeah.
That was probably the worst way to lose a game ever.
It was up there.
Sawamura couldn't even ground like the bunt.
It was actually up there.
Was it a bunt or
it was
a
a bunt? It was a bunt.
It was a bunt. I literally, it was so bad I can't even remember. Bunt overthrew Rafi, and the game was over. Like the game literally ended, and that was it.
That's actually one of the most embarrassing things that I've actually maybe ever seen in my life. Like, not even just baseball, not just sports, like genuinely in my life. That might have been one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. And when you're like, first off, I want to preface this by I've been on record for saying that Hirokazu Sawamura is my favorite player on the Red Sox. And I actually haven't spoken about this since. And you know what? It was a big loss. We lost 2-1. He's officially no longer my favorite player. I'm gonna say it. You don't fumble a bag like that and expect me to stick with you. When you're a pitcher, you're expected to hit the strike zone. I like Sawamura because he does that. He puts the ball in play, right, and relies on the defense, which is exactly what you should do when you have a good defense behind you. But when you can hit a strike zone, but you can't hit Rafael Devers at third base after a bunt, like how difficult actually is that? He was so like out of form. He had no idea where he was once he fielded the ball. It was embarrassing. That was the worst loss of the year. I'm gonna mark it up as that.
Honestly, I think no matter how many games we win or lose, that will actually be the worst loss we have this year, no matter what. Like, we could actually get walk-off grand slam in the bottom of like the 15th, and I honestly don't think that would be bad. I think I would actually be happy.
The worst part is, like, I had to think about that in my head because we've already had some pretty bad losses. I mean, we lost 4 games in a row to the Rays and then Blue Jays, where I think there was 2 walk-offs from each team. We've been walked off by every team in the AL East except for the Yankees. Thank God, because if the Yankees ever walked us off, we probably wouldn't have an episode the next day.
By the Yankees, actually, Josh Donaldson on opening day.
Oh, on opening day, right? Yeah, which wasn't fair. Which wasn't fair because the original opening day got postponed. So I remember I didn't count that as a loss. I counted that as the Yankees cheating because they cheat all the time. So this is definitely our worst loss. And Will, I agree with you. I think this will end up being our worst loss of the year. It's a very bad look for Hirokazu Sawamura. It's embarrassing. It's like there's no other way of putting it. It's straight up embarrassing. And to move on to game 3, game 3 was just as bad, in my opinion, of this series, where would you go in there and you just absolutely need to come out with a win. This was actually a must-win game, and we're playing the Orioles, so it's like one of those must-win games where you think that, like, okay, this is a must-win, this is a should-win, right? And Nick Pivetta, Nicky Meatballs came out on the mound. He was 0-3. It's like, let's get this first dub. No, I guess he just didn't want his first dub. What really screwed us, Will, is in the middle of the 6th inning, torrential downpours just came in. It was raining throughout the whole game. And at one point it was like, okay, like, you can't see the ball. the pitcher. It's unsafe because of how wet the mound is. And when they try to put like the extra dirt on to like
Mhm.
dry it out, they would put the dirt on like third base, shortstop, like around where everybody stood. Literally within 30 seconds, the whole thing was drenched again. Like that's how bad it was raining.
I
So
couldn't even see. I was at work.
understandably, Will, it should have gone to a rain delay. And for some reason, when we came out of the rain delay, I just want to say, first off, we were down by 2 runs, right? Because we scored a nice little sac fly from Franchi Cordero in the 5th, which was big. That's an RBI from a first baseman. We haven't seen that a lot this year from Bobby Dalbec. So an RBI from a first baseman, rare. That's nice. But right when we score a run, the next inning or the next half inning, we give up 3, and it's like, okay, like come on, like we actually can't do anything, like we stink. And then don't do anything top of 6. We get rain delayed. 3 hours later, we come back and they put up 6 runs. Like, what did you do in the 3 hours? Were you just in the batting cage the whole 6 hours if you're the Orioles and the Red Sox were just doing nothing? Phillips Valdez came out there. Phillips Valdez should be cut. Jackie Bradley Jr. should be cut. Hirokazu Saramura, just because of that one play, cut. And we need a lot of moves because at the beginning of the season, we got Story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's literally it. We got Trevor Story, and that's it. Like we really
That's the
didn't
only
do
person
anything
that's
other than that.
really been making a difference. I mean, we had Strom. I mean, Deekman's he's
I mean, we
awful.
got Wacko, we got Rich Hill back, but like I don't count those
Yeah,
guys because like
but
they
yeah,
actually
like
stink.
yeah, like we can't count those as moves unless like it's not like we had Hunter Renfroe last year and he was by far the best free agent signing in the MLB and like we were like really really good. To keep in mind, we were really really good. We were 17-10 at the beginning of the year last April. We were 17-10. Obviously, like that's a different team. Not really, but it looks like a different team. Like the I
I
don't
mean,
really
same core, but different surrounding parts. Different. What's the correct word? Like when you talk about LeBron James, what do you call his teammates? Because you don't actually call them teammates. It's like the supporting cast.
yeah.
Different supporting cast. So it's a bad look.
It is sorry, my AirPods absolutely spat on me for a second there. I apologize about that. But yeah, no, it is a very bad look, and I'm not really understanding what has gone on. There's a lot that needs to go on, and right now, for every other team almost in the MLB, unless you're just not expected to make the playoffs, which we are technically expected to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year, that is our expectation. Um, it's early in the year for everyone else. Right now, it's actually almost going to be too late if we don't do anything.
Oh, it actually kind of is because you have to, like it's not like we're going to be soon eliminated like from the playoffs or whatever, but you have to see where we are, right? We're in the American League East with the Yankees who are at 16-6, the Blue Jays who are low key just a game and a half behind them at 15-8, and then the Tampa Bay Rays are sitting over 500 as well. We're 7.5 games behind the Yankees right now, and in our last 10 games, we are 3-7. We don't win at home, we don't win on the road, we just don't win. Like it's not like there's something there's not like a hole that we need to fix. It's like the whole team is a hole right now. And Xander
We don't have a
Bogaerts has been
name.
playing very well. We don't have anything though. We don't have pitching, we don't have batting. In my opinion, I'm not as mad at the pitching as I am the batting because we knew what we were going to get from our pitchers, right? And that's, I mean, almost nothing. And
Exactly.
I've been more than impressed with what these, I mean, double A'ers are doing in our bullpen. And when you have someone like Kike Hernandez who batted like 300 last year, and you have to move him out of the top spot, that's embarrassing. And I'm very happy. I've said it, I think every single episode. I'm very happy that Trevor Story's batting in the 1 hole. I think he's been doing very well there. We need Kike to up in production. And another thing, Cora, love Cora. I just hate the way that he quote unquote utilizes day offs. I think he takes advantage of days off for players like Verdugo, who didn't miss a game up until last night, where I actually don't even know who played for him, but Verdugo wasn't in last night. Verdugo's a guy that actually needs to play every day. He's 25 years old, and it's like he doesn't need days off. He's 25. Like Kike would make more sense. He's 30. You could stick Jackie in center on those days. But like some guys just don't make sense. And another thing I hate is how JD Martinez, who's battling like a very, very, very minor injury, is playing like once a week. Like he's okay to play and he's came back from the injury, but then you sit him back out just because. Like JD Martinez, and I want to go into a little bit more depth about him in a minute. JD Martinez is supposed to be our best hitter, right? It's supposed to be like a slugger,
He
and he's our
technically is
DH,
at the moment one of our best hitters.
but he doesn't play well. That's the issue, and
I
I
know
think
that's the problem.
that's one of the biggest changes. I guess I can get into it right now. I'm just gonna say straight up, I think that it's time to move on from JD. We're not a World Series contending team, and JD Martinez, who's 34, who can't do anything in the field, who can bat, right? You can bat. Right now, he's hitting 305. In his not a lot of time on the field, right? Batting 305, he's got 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, not too bad. But at the same time, he's old, right? And it's like, who else would we put at DH right now? Nobody, because nobody can hit. But if we really want to find our identity, I think a big change is going to have to either be JD Martinez back DHing, I mean, 5, 6 days a week, or we need to get rid of him. I think we need to find our lineup, Will, because I just hate the inconsistencies in our lineup. If we're having days off for 1 or 2 players each and every day, we're not going to find a lineup until like the All-Star break. It's like, what do we expect? And when Cora came back, we won 1 game against the Jays. We were like, okay, like this is going to be our lineup because we had all our starters out there. And then the next day, he gave 2 of our starters a day off. And I just really think that we need like a solid week and a half where our starters are just playing every day and let them get accustomed to batting where they're batting and batting in front of who they're batting behind who they're batting. There needs to be a lot more consistency within this lineup. I just really don't like how Cora is utilizing these days off for all these players. I really think it's leading to a lot of inconsistency from the bat well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think we need to establish that days off should not, like right now. Like I said, we're at the point where it's obviously still early, but for the Red Sox, it's honestly almost getting to the point where it could be too late if we don't react now. We need to be proactive in the way we're playing, and it's honestly kind of embarrassing to say that at this point in the season we've only played a month. It's actually May 2nd, the day we're recording this, and we're already talking about this. But we need to establish that there can't be days off when we play the division. Our division is actually one of the strongest divisions in the MLB, if not the best division in the MLB.
The best.
And we can't have people playing on off days. Like we can't have JD sitting out on a 3-game stretch against the Blue Jays. Like the Blue Jays are supposed to be in the World Series prediction. Like that's the World Series, one of the World Series favorites. The Yankees are the best in the AL East, and we can't have someone sitting against them. We can't even have someone sitting against the Orioles at this point. Like, I mean, we haven't even talked about the Rays, but we had guys sitting against the Rays too. And like, what are we just going to give up on the series? Like, we could have split that series against the Rays, but we sat people on the last day and we lost. Like we should have. Like we deserve to lose all the games that we've lost this season by far.
No, and I 100% agree. Hello, everyone. I've joined this call late.
Show yourself.
But I 100% agree with Will. I mean, this team isn't good enough to be resting starters during divisional games. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me what this approach is right now, because it feels like the approach right now is what a team would take in late September if they've already clinched the division. So resting guys, bringing, I mean, the guys that they're playing, like Arroyo, he's a pretty good player. Like all these guys are solid. It's just, I look at the lineups of everybody else in our division and I'm like, these guys are way ahead of us. Like I'm only confident in a few guys in this lineup, and even we have no power in the lineup. Like there is 0 home run threat other than Rafael Devers in our lineup. It should be Trevor Story, but he's yet to hit a home run. He's improved with his average. He's getting on base a lot more, getting his extra base hits, which is great. He's living up to the leadoff role. He's the leadoff batter. So you only expect 10, 15 home runs out of a guy like that. So I'm not going to say we need pop out of him. We need more pop out of Devers. He only has 4 home runs this year, I believe. Bogarts kind of needs to pick it up a little bit. with the pop, but he's batting 400. So how can I complain? JD's JD. You
Doesn't
figure,
play.
yeah, like it
Doesn't
just
play.
they need to call up Cassis, in my opinion. Not only for the pop he brings in his bat, he's batting excellent in AAA, but just the spark. The team needs energy. You know, it seems like they're flat. And JD hits a grand slam last night, and we still lose by 4 runs. Like, that's unacceptable. So the pitching, in my opinion, besides Nick Pivetta needs to figure it out because he's on his way out the door
Yeah.
if he continues to pitch like this, first off. But I still want to say I am confident that they will figure it out. I don't like the, it's early in the year excuse, because how early is late? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
the time
And
is
that's
now to figure it
especially
out.
and that's especially like looking at the AL East, like we need to jump on this, right? Because we're not playing in a division like say like the I don't even know, like literally pretty much any other division, right? Unless you're going to the NL West. Um like this is a division where you need to be at the top of your game pretty much all season because there's 4 teams in this division that are looking to be in the playoffs. Only one of them can be in a playoff, 2 of them in a wild card, unless like some drastic thing happens where we all sneak in, which is pretty much, I mean, that's impossible, right? There's no way that 4 teams in the same division get in. And right now we're slacking really bad with the Yankees on an absolute heater, which is, I mean, the opposite of what we wanted to see. I'd rather see the Jays, I'd rather see the Rays up there compared to the Yankees, just based off their fan base, awful fan base, awful ownership. They are not allowed to have beards, just bad people all around. You don't like to see them succeeding. When you see a team that's 9-14 in the Boston Red Sox, great organization, but we can't get it done. First off, you're right, Stav. Nick Pivetta has been not even bad. It's borderline awful. He's 0-4. And if you want to look at Sunday's game, he pitched 4 1/3. He gave up 3 earned runs, only had 5 Ks, and we got the loss, right? And when we went into the rain delay, it was like, okay, we're only down 2 runs. Maybe something can happen. We gave up 6 runs in 1 inning. 6 runs in 1 inning is, I mean, and I'm not even saying we gave up 6 runs in 1 inning to the Baltimore Orioles. That might be the most runs they score in an inning this year. And it's really, really bad. It's really embarrassing. This is a team that needs to make moves. And speaking of moves, Will, if there's anybody that you have heard of on the trade block, like literally anybody at all, do you think there's any possibility, maybe throw out some names of some guys that the Red Sox could target?
All right, so I got 3 guys. I did some diving into a lot of these moves. Most of these moves probably wouldn't happen until around the All-Star break or until it's at the point where things need to change for a lot of teams. We're just a little early to the party this year. My 3 names are Josh Bell, Mitch Haniger, and Corey Nebel. I'm gonna start off Josh Bell, first baseman. He's a switch hitter. He's really good. The Nationals are either going to be looking to be competitive or they're not going to be at all. And he's on his last year with his option. I don't actually wait. No, he doesn't have an option. He will be a free agent at the end of the year, and the Nationals are probably still looking to rebuild. They're getting rid of their pieces. We saw it last year too. So if they're looking to get younger, why not make a trade for a first baseman? He will be our everyday guy. Yes, we have Casas, but if we're going to become competitive and we're not going to bring up Casas or stick with anyone there as an everyday guy, he can be our everyday guy right now.
That's very true.
Mitch Haniger, if we're looking to move, the 3 pieces that I was thinking of possibly moving would be JD, Kike, and then Xander, which is obviously pending contract negotiations with him because he's almost 30. Like, what are we going to do with him if he doesn't sign back? We're losing value. We could have Mitch in right field if Mitch depends on Julio Rodriguez production. If he is good, they will most likely ship him off. He can be our right fielder, and we could even call up Durant to play center field for us if we get rid of Kike in that trade. Why not be young and fun? And
That's very
then
true.
Corey Nebel is only on a 1-year deal with the Phillies. He's, I think, one of their 4 closers. He's disgusting. He has like a .94 ERA. He's let up like 6 hits, and I think he's only let up I think he's only obviously he has less than 1 ERA, but he only has 1 run. I think it was 1 home run. And that's it.
So, a couple of names that I was looking at, and originally at the beginning of the season, I was looking at a guy like Eric Hosmer, who was on a big contract that potentially the Padres would want to dump. That was the name that I thought of, when Tatis originally got injured, and I was like, well, if they don't want to be paying someone like that so much money, then why not the Sox take him in? He can play first for us. But he's actually been producing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, actually, like literally one of the best players, like kind of in the league. I think he leads the league in batting average. He's hit a couple of home runs. He has a good amount of RBIs. So he's definitely off the table. The Padres are going to want to keep him. That's not a name I'm looking at anymore. A name that I am looking at, however, is Brian Reynolds. And I know he has a lot of production, but at the same time, when you play for a team like the Pirates, they're kind of just ready to ship anyone at any time. They're liable to trade literally anybody. And thinking of names to trade, like this would be a good piece, low key for Xander. I mean, Brian Reynolds, a switch hitting center fielder who could. I mean, if we keep Kike could move to right, or Brian Reynolds could play right, but I kind of like him in center field. He's got good speed. Like I said, he's a switch hitter. He'd be very good in the top half of our lineup. I like him batting first or second. I mean, a dream if we were to get him, hypothetical situation. I would love for Reynolds to lead off, Story in the 2-hole, and Rafi at 3. But that's a guy that I think we'd have to give up a couple pieces for, right? I think he's a very good player. Another name that I was looking at, and Will actually we had a conversation about this guy, was Noah Syndergaard, who's currently in Los Angeles. He's on a 1-year deal, which, like we said, is the perfect time to ship someone off when they're on a 1-year deal, because you don't know what they're going to be asking for. He's a guy that could come into our rotation. In my opinion, he's better than Pivetta. He's better than Waka, and he's better than Hill. I mean, Pavetta's pretty good, but he's 0 for 4. He's not good this year at all. And pitching's just something that we really need. And I like Nebel from the Phillies, Will. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we do definitely need to get a bullpen guy. And that's the reason I went with someone like Syndergaard. Wanted to throw someone into the rotation as well. Because not only do we need bullpen, we need rotational guys. We need someone that's going to go 6, 7 deep. Because this season, I think the only person that we've seen touch the 7th inning is Nathan Eovaldi, who's definitely our ace. I would say Nathan Eovaldi is playing up to the expectations that we want him to play up to this year. Xander, other than the home runs, Xander's been producing very well with his hits. He's got a few RBIs as well. But other than those two, in my opinion, unless you guys disagree, that's really the only 2 people that I'm happy with this year. And I'm not even really ecstatic with Xander. I think he should be hitting more home runs. You can blame it on the balls all you want, but I mean, when you look across the league, we're pretty much the only team that's slacking off this much when it comes to home run production. And it shows. Like, we aren't putting up the runs that we did last year. We came into this season really looking to kind of go on the same path that we were on last year, just get hot, stay hot. And then, I mean, they fell off a little bit in the second half, found their way back, and then found their way into the wild card ALCS. We all know what happened. But at this point, it's like, we definitely still have a chance, right? Like, it's the beginning of May. In the season started a week late, so we're only really 3 weeks, almost a month in. And the Sox are in trouble, and we need to dig ourselves out of this hole that we made. And that's what happens in the MLB. It's a long season, but I mean, that's something you hear a lot, guys. That it's a long season, but at some point the long season ends. And if the long season ends and we're sitting below 500, I'm gonna mark this up as one of the worst Red Sox seasons ever, because like, this is the way that it's looking. It's a lot of guys that aren't producing, and we don't have the pitching behind it to really save us. And I said this a while ago when we first started talking about the Sox this episode, Will. The pitching honestly isn't even our biggest problem right now. It's really the production from the bats and stuff. When it comes to the bats, give me 2, 3 guys other than Devers, because we know Devers isn't hitting home runs. 2 or 3 guys on this Red Sox team right now that you think should be playing better and you think will be playing better in the future.
Guys who I think should be better right now. Bobby Dahlbeck is number 1 on that list. I don't think he will be better going forward. I think this is what we have to kind of expect from him. But that's a guy who had a lot of expectations coming into the season. You know, the Red Sox didn't really go after Freddie Freeman, or they didn't really pursue another first baseman that would replace Bobby Dahlbeck in faith that he would succeed. And they were proven that that was the wrong decision. Another guy who I want to see kind of bring a little bit more pop in the bat is Verdugo. He started off the season very hot. He's kind of tailed off a little bit since then. And third guy who I really want to talk about with power, especially, is, Kike. You know, Kike at the end of last season, and especially in the playoffs, who was putting up historical numbers, everyone was riding high with him. Everyone thought that he would come in, he would bring the pop in the bat, he would lead off all the leadoff home runs, driving in all these guys. He's yet to really step back into that role. You can't really expect him to be at batting 500. What he did was historical last year in the playoffs, but I want half of that. You know, he was hitting home runs basically every other at-bat last year in the playoffs. Why can't he just do even a portion of that? Or he has yet to show glimpses of that other than that Tigers series. So those are three guys who I am disappointed with, to be honest. You know, Verdugo was my dark horse to win AL MVP. I doubt that's going to happen, but that's a guy who I expect will do better going forward. Kike, I'm yet to really form my opinion because I'm disappointed with how he started.
I'm glad you brought up Kike because I'm really not sold on Kike Hernandez. And he was so good leading off for us last year, and I was hoping that he'd fit into that 6 slot because that's like literally his perfect spot. I like Verdugo at 5. I like Kike at 6. Because when you think of a 6 hole, it's like you're not really looking for a great power guy, but maybe someone that can hit it out of the park every here and there, which is exactly what he's supposed to be. He has some good speed. He's good in the field. And I was hoping that he'd find his spot in the 6 hole, and he just really hasn't. And like we could say, like move him back to leadoff, but he started the year off at leadoff, and he was still bad. So like, there's really nowhere that we can put him in this lineup, and he can succeed at this point. I think those were really the only 2 spots. He's not a power hitter. Like I said, he does hit it out of the park, but like he's not like a Rafael Devers or a JD Martinez. Like he's a guy that it's kind of a balance. Like he gets on base. Sometimes he hits home runs, but he's not really consistent with any of it right now. And if he can't be a solid 6 for us, then we need to find somebody else. And that's why I'm looking at a guy like Brian Reynolds. Like if we could put together a nice package with, even send Kike out and a few prospects. It's something that needs to be done almost because if Kike is not going to produce, think about it. He's 30 years old. And in baseball, obviously, you can play till, almost 40, unless you're playing in center field, which is exactly where he plays. Might be time to move on from him. I don't really think we're going to be competing for a World Series this year, and that's why I look at these older guys like JD Martinez and I look at Kike Hernandez, and it's like, what are we really looking for from these guys this year? If we're going to be playing at this level come All-Star break, are they still going to be Red Sox? And I really don't know if they will be.
When do you guys think the point in the season where they should just call up the AAA guys and develop them? Because right now, what they're doing isn't working. And hypothetically, we tread in this direction for the rest of the year, probably after All-Star break, right? We're not going to make the playoffs most likely. I think when they should kind of throw in the white flag and look to rebuild is a little bit after the All-Star break, where Cassis should be called up. Jeter Down should get his first MLB opportunity. Durant should be playing right. Like, all of these guys, even I can't believe I forgot this guy's name again. I'm terrible with names recently. But the right fielder who had a really good spring training that everyone thought would make the opening day roster.
Fitzgerald or Rev
Yes,
Snyder?
Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald should be getting a call up. Like, our last 4 batters, I think, are batting sub 200, which is not acceptable. Like, you're a team that was in the ALCS last year. And the more and more I think of it, the more and more I hate the Hunter Renfroe trade. What were we trying to accomplish with that? Renfroe is playing very well for Milwaukee right now. That's a guy who brings pop into your lineup. He's a home run threat every time he's up to the plate. I know he didn't really have a great ALCS, but he had a great regular season. Defensively, And offensively, he's a 250 guy who's going to hit you 30 home runs. That's what this lineup needs. Schwarber leaving also kills him. Schwarber's playing awesome in Philly. It's like the offseason, as the season's unfolding, is making less and less sense to me.
I believe I went on record saying that those are the two biggest mistakes we made, like right off the bat after going on that run in the playoffs, because we could have shipped out JD. We weren't expecting JD to have the season that he had last year, and he did. And we sure weren't expecting him to play up to what he did last year this year. So we could have had Schwarber playing DH and Hunter in right field and kept those guys, and we would have been in a somewhat similar situation. And for calling up our guys, Dov, I mean, I expect if we're going to make any move, that Jaren Duran would be the first prospect to go. I really feel like if we were to trade anyone, Jaren Duran would be the person that we end up trading. It makes the most sense. He has the most MLB looks right now. Like, he's had the most at bats out of anyone that would be have called up. Sorry, and we might as well bring up Casas earlier. I don't know why we don't bring him up right now. I actually don't know why. If we're not going to have an everyday guy at first base, we say this like every episode, but if we're not going to have an everyday guy at first base, or even put Travis Shaw there, or even who would we have? Oh, Cordero. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. But if we have, like, why can't we just have someone play there? Like, Bobby Dahlbeck is not the answer.
Like, I am so happy you brought up Franchi Cordero, because I think that's a guy who deserves another opportunity. That's a guy who brings pop in the lineup. And I know it's not really ideal for Franchi Cordero to be the first baseman. Everyone kind of wants Casas, but like, I'm thinking, like, ideally, you bring in Franchi to play first. You trade JD hypothetically. Casas plays DH. You have this lineup of Story, Bogarts, Devers, Casas, Franchi Cordero, and Duran. I want Duran to be called up. I know Will, you said that he's a guy who's going to be in trade talks. I agree. If they don't call him up, then trade him, because that's a guy who has value.
Exactly.
That's a guy who is a great player. He's very young, and he's a guy who's homegrown. So it's like, let these guys develop. I don't know what direction the Red Sox are going in. Are they trying to be young? Are they trying to win a championship? Are they trying to rebuild? Because having guys like Jackie Bradley Jr., Christian Arroyo, Bobby Dahlbeck in your lineup, those are pieces that saying we want to lose. Like, what does Bobby do that Franchi doesn't? JBJ, he's a decent outfielder. I mean, he's older now, so he's not the Gold Glover that everyone expects him to be. He can't bat. And Arroyo, he's all right at best. Like, the most you can expect out of Arroyo is to bat 230 with like 20 home runs. So
that's not even that bad. Like, right now, like, as bad as that sounds, like, I would actually love if he could do that.
That would be like one of the best players on our team.
That was like literally be like the third best player on our team.
Exactly.
That we're going,
like,
which is embarrassing.
Yes, exactly. And I'm thinking to myself, this team needs an identity. Last year, they had the laundry cart home run thing. They would wave everything. It just doesn't seem like there's any energy with this team right now, and they need to bring up the young guys to bring that energy.
Yeah, and I think that a reason, and I know both of you have already covered Duran, so I'll be quick on this, but I think that a reason that we haven't brought up Duran is because we are nervous about our major league squad and about potential trades. I think it would be a big risk bringing Duran up this early. Say if we bring him up for like 3 weeks, he does bad, then that is like his trade. I mean, his trade stock absolutely plummets. I think that's a big reason he's not up right now. I think we're looking to make trades, which is a good thing. Casas is an untouchable to me, and I hope that the Red Sox organization feels the same exact way. He has a lot of potential when it comes to being a big leaguer. And I think that there's, no better time to move him up other than right after All-Star break, especially if we continue on this trend, because you look at who's there, and I like Franchi. He had 2 errors in the Orioles series, however, over at first base. One of them wasn't his fault, but it was given to him as an error. But the other one was 100% his fault. It was an awful play. I don't know if you guys saw that one. I think it was a Xander throw over, or maybe a Story throw. Not like the little flip one, but it was just a regular routine ground ball in like the 3rd inning of the 2nd game. But Franchi's someone that's like, okay, cool. Honestly, I'll take him over Bobby, but I won't take him on a playoff team. I don't think he's a first baseman on a playoff team. When you look at the corners, and we have Rafi locked up at third base, when you look at the corners on playoff teams, you see power and you see production. Franchi can give us power. I don't think he can give us the production that we need from him. And Casas is a guy that if he's going to match Franchi, why not have him here? Because he's younger. He's going to be our future potentially. He's a guy that you could look at and be like, this could be the face of the Red Sox franchise. I mean, the way that we're going, it's going to be Devers. We don't know what we're going to do with, it's going to be Devers. We don't know what we're going to be doing with Bogarts on the left side. I'm thinking maybe next year Story's going to be our shortstop. We're going to find a second baseman. But I'm praying we keep Bogarts. He's a guy that, like we've talked about, homegrown. We love homegrown guys, and he's been super solid for us throughout his whole career. It's a guy I want to see in Fenway Park until he calls it quits. But if he's not going to comply to contract negotiations, and the toughest part about MLB is there's a lot of money in it, and when a lot of people need to get paid, that makes your team worse. And a lot of these old people on the radio are like, take the pay cut to make your team better. And it makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't. You need to think about these individuals' lives. So it's like you can't actually be too mad about somebody taking a pay cut, right? Like they need the money that they deserve. And if we can't pay them that, then we can't pay them that. And if that's the case, then Stav, you're right. Jeter Down should start seeing some call-ups here throughout this year, especially after All-Star break. Another guy, Ref Snyder, who I like. You already mentioned Fitzgerald. Those are some outfield pieces, two of them that we have AAA. They're aged. I want to say Fitzgerald's 29, but like we could bring him up this year, and I think he's played right field, he's played left field, and he's played third base. Those are three big positions of need for us if Verdugo is going to be taking these days off because Alex Cora just wants to give everybody a day off. These are guys that can come in and produce for us right now because we have absolutely no production.
I wanted to say my last thing about the Red Sox really quickly is a quick hone in on the Seattle Mariners. They have brought up two big prospects out of their farm system in the last 2 years. They won 90 games last year and didn't make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs this year. I can pretty much almost guarantee you that in the division that they're in. They're 12-10 and their prospects are about to shine. Why aren't we doing the same thing? They're a team that literally was almost similar to us last year. Like they barely missed the playoffs. I think they missed because they lost the last game of the season.
Yeah,
and it was by like a half a game.
Yes, exactly.
They literally lost it by half a game, and which was ridiculous. And like I don't consider them the same in as skill level as we were last year, but they were pretty close. Like they were very, very good. They were talented all around. They were actually honestly they could have been better than us in a lot of different categories, but we were just hot. And why aren't like the real question is like we've been talking about is the prospects. Why aren't we taking our chance? Like who cares? Like these guys that we have on our team are old. They're going to lose value anyways. If Jarren Duran comes up and isn't good, which honestly I expect him to be decent. I don't expect him to be fantastic right off the bat. But last year we only had him playing the same way we had Trevor Story playing. He only batted against righties because he had the matchup. What are we doing? We're limiting our guys' success every day.
And that's to the point where this has been in my head since the beginning of the season. Alex Cora is one of those analytical guys, and I love analytics. I love advanced stats. And I think that in football, that's where they really shine. Like when you get a coach like Sean McVay, or someone of that nature from the Sean McVay tree, like they're so focused on analytics and it works, right? Because it's football. When it comes to baseball, though, there's a certain level of like feel where if you get a guy in there every day, and say the first 2-3 weeks he's not producing against lefties, why are you pulling him? Right? Because if you really want this guy to shine in the MLB, then he's got to get better. What way are you going to make him better if you're not going to be playing them against his weaknesses? You're just literally showing off his weaknesses and then showing that you're not going to try to make him better. And that's where baseball, the analytics and that don't really add up, in my opinion. Now I see how you could say it leads to more wins, but I haven't seen them this year at all. And last year we had a good team, so it made sense that we saw Duran against It was against lefties, right? Lefties only. He's good against lefties,
No.
not good against righties. Other
He's
way
good
around.
against righties because he's a
Good
lefty
against
guy.
righties.
Yeah.
Yes. So, oh yeah, he is a lefty. I don't know why I thought he was a righty. But this is the perfect year for if we bring someone up, say like a Casas, and it comes out that Casas isn't as good against like a certain thing. If Core takes him out, I'll genuinely be pissed off
Yeah.
because he needs to
Yeah.
get he needs to get a feel for his weaknesses and he needs to patch up those holes stuff. And that's the only way to patch up those holes is to give him more reps.
You want to know if this might kind of sound like a hot take, but if we're in July and this team is still awful, I would rather watch the young guys play than what we have on the field right now. Like, if we're losing but the young guys are playing, I'll be happy. Compared to if we have the old guys and we're losing. Obviously, winning is what's expected of the Boston Red Sox. But, Will, kind of going back to your point about the Mariners, you're 100% correct. They took chances on their guys, and they've proven that they want to win. They have a direction of that franchise. They signed Robbie Ray. They signed Jesse Winker. They call up Julio Rodriguez, who's playing very well. He had a great game last night.
They have Jared Klenick.
I have Mitch and Wright. Like, they have a good lineup. And I love the direction that the Mariners are going. It's just the Red Sox seem like they're going in the opposite direction for no reason. It's not like we don't have the money to sign people. We have the highest.
Exactly.
We have like the highest cap space of any MLB team because the cap does not exist in baseball. Like if you're a rich team, like the Yankees, Dodgers, or I'll throw the Red Sox in there, you should be able to attract the big free agents. You should be able to spend the money that you want.
I mean, we're a high market team. We're one of the biggest market cities when it comes to not only sports but money in general. Like this is a team that has a lot of money, could spend a lot of money, and they're not spending the proper amount. Now, I think that this is all I have to say about the Red Sox. I'm done with the Sox after this.
Yeah.
This offseason, I feel like we looked at it as like, we still have a chance. I think we gave the front office like too much in the sense that this was a loss. The offseason, we lost the offseason. We had a very bad offseason. We didn't pick up the guys that we needed to pick up. We needed a first baseman. It was known Freddie Freeman's a guy that's going to make a lot of money, and we all kind of knew he was going to LA, so he's off the table. But when you look at
Matt Olson.
was it Olson? Yeah, Olson from the A's who got flipped. He's a guy that actually definitely could have landed with the Sox. He ended up in Toronto, and he hasn't been doing
Atlanta.
or not Toronto, Atlanta. Chapman ended up in Toronto.
Yep. Another guy who could have played first base hypothetically. Great.
Yeah. But like he's producing very well in Atlanta. He honestly, a lot of people are saying he filled right into Freddie Freeman's shoes. He's a guy that could have been here and they could have locked up the corners for years to come. And you know what? They didn't. And there was a lot of pitchers as well on the market. And I've been looking at the free agent market just because, I mean, we're desperate. There's some guys that I've seen, and if I know their name and they're a free agent pitcher, then I automatically think that they're better than someone like a Hirokazu Sawamura who can't throw to third base. Like there are some names that we should take chances on some of these guys right now. And I actually bet that we will be better off if we go out, we pick up a few of these free agent pitchers, because a lot of the free agent pitchers are obviously injured. But I saw a couple of guys that literally have no problems. They're just not on the MLB roster because they recently got designated for assignment. I don't have any names up right now. I mean, if you guys want names, I could get names for Friday's episode, but like there's just a lot of moves that could be made, and there's a lot of moves that could have been made, and we haven't done any of that. So
what happened to Blaze Jordan? Like, why is
he's in Portland? I think.
I feel like they should kind of rush his development too. He's been in the system for 4 years now.
Yeah, we drafted him when he was like 12.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think it's time to start actually playing some of our cards. You know what I mean? We have a lot of cards. Let's start showing our hand a little bit. You know, we got guys like Marcelo Meyer, who we drafted last year. He's like 19, but he's playing awesome wherever he is. He hit a home run off of Nate Eovaldi in spring training, I think. It's like
Yes, he did.
So he's seen major league pitching. He's succeeded in major league pitching. I think he's dominating in single A. Start putting him in double A. Bring Blaze Jordan up to triple A and bring somebody like Casas into the big leagues because it's gone way too long now. And I don't want to keep talking about the Red Sox. I think it's kind of pissing us all off right now because I feel like whatever we say isn't actually going to come into fruition. So let's talk about the Boston Celtics. This is a great transition.
Day is just right on the down low. It's
All right.
not going any higher up.
So the Celtics yesterday got embarrassed. Yesterday, Sunday. My takeaway from that game, I kind of want to keep it short and sweet with this. They got out physical, and they played right into the Bucks trap. So if I'm Ime Udoka, I'm pulling a card out of Rex Ryan's deck here. I'm taking that game ball and I'm burying it. All right. I'd rather lose a game where you get blown out than lose a game where you play your best, because if you play your best and you lose, you have no hope.
Then it's like, exactly.
But the Celtics only made 10 2-pointers yesterday, which is the lowest in franchise history. They shot like 53s. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum kind of picked it up. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown played off. He played awful. He missed every single open shot he took. And if I'm Ime Udoka, I take that game ball and I bury it. We're moving on because this is a long series ahead of us. And if basically it came down to who made more shots. And I think the Celtics held them to 101. That's pretty damn good. Like, start hitting your open shots and they'll be in a good spot. What do you think, Griff?
Right. I agree with that exactly. And I want to be on record for saying, Stav, that this game, coach-wise, was not messed up. I think Coach Ime Udoka actually coached a good game. I just think it came to the point where our offense was actually terrible. Like, I so bad to the point that it made our defense worse, just because like there was no momentum, there was nothing. Really the only times where you saw some momentum was where like JB had his putback dunk and we got a little energy off of that, but it really wasn't even anything special. But this isn't a game where you can go out and blame the coach at all. I think Ime Udoka put us in positions to come back. I saw at least 3 times where he drew up a play on offense where it was like, that's a big high percentage shot. That's a great play, great draw up off a timeout from Ime early in the fourth. He did that about 2 or 3 times. Not all of them off of timeouts, obviously, but there was a moment, 7 minutes, and we called the timeout in the fourth quarter, and we came out firing, right? And it was like, you really cannot blame that loss on anybody but the stars. I think Al Horford, even though I think he only finished with 12 points, he did literally everything he possibly could in the first quarter to keep us in through that first quarter. Marcus Smart, who's now questionable for game 2, took an absolute beating. Giannis is an absolute wrecking ball, and they let him be a wrecking ball. So that's something that we have to look forward to, right? And it's not something that we can be too mad at because we know that's how Giannis plays basketball. And he's a guy that's just going to run into everybody, and they're going to give him the calls. And we know that. Like, we can't blame it on that. The only thing that I'm blaming this on, I'm going to blame it on 3. I'll just leave it to 3 people. And these are all Celtics players. I think the Bucks played a great game. Peyton Pritchard had a bad game. I'm a Peyton Pritchard super fan. We all love Peyton Pritchard. He missed a lot of open shots, and I think he missed 4 in the fourth quarter. They were wide open. Peyton Pritchard is a guy that needs to maximize his opportunities, and he did just that in the Nets series. And now we're looking for him to be one of those guys throughout this playoff run. He really needs to come through. Another guy that I'm looking at is Jaylen Brown, like you said, Stoff. He's a guy that is our second best player. He's straight up our second best player. We're expecting 20 points from him, and we really didn't get that. And the third guy that I'm very, very, very upset with, and we said he put it together, and that's Jason Tatum. The thing with Jason Tatum, I'm gonna hold him to high standards. He's a superstar now. He shouldn't have to put it together at some point. It should just be together from when the ball gets tipped off. He's a superstar. He should be at 110% from start to finish in a game. And if we want to win a championship, then that's exactly what we need from him.
It's just you gotta play up to your expectations. I think there is going to be, or I think game 1 was an adjustment period from going to the Brooklyn Nets, who hate defense and have no plan whatsoever on both sides of the court, to the Milwaukee Bucks, who are a very well-coached team who have a plan for literally everything that you could do. So Game 1 was an adjustment period. That's a feeling out process. Game 2, it's a must win. You cannot go down 0-2 going back to Milwaukee because you will lose in 5. You'll lose in 4 or 5 if you go back to Milwaukee down 0-2. Because my philosophy around this series was we can steal one in Milwaukee, come back home, and we're not going to lose at home. Like I originally said 5 games, but
I did too.
If they play like that, we'll lose in 4. And because Giannis, he didn't shoot very well. He put up a triple-double, but he shot, 6 of 19, 6 of 20, 7 of 20? They had a great defensive game plan. And Drew Holiday steps in, does his thing. Bobby Portis is a guy who I did underestimate, to be honest. His offensive ability, he played awesome. And Brook Lopez defensively is a lot better than I anticipated. I feel like I'm going to sound like a casual when I say this, but Brook Lopez earlier in his career was never really known as a defensive big. And he and Bobby Portis impacted every single shot that the Celtics took in the paint. And I don't know if that's an aggressiveness thing. I don't know if that's something we can switch on for the Celtics, but they need to figure out some screens and get some open looks mid-range and in the paint.
Very true. Very true. And the fact that you brought up stuff, we made 10 2-pointers, right? And that's mid-range and that's in the paint. So this is a team where you look at our bigs and you look at their bigs, right? You're going Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez against Al Horford and Rob Will. Just straight up the fact that Lopez is out there at the same time as Robert Williams, we own an advantage just in my opinion, based off those two with the athletic ability of Robert Williams. On offense, we need to figure out we actually don't need to figure out. We need to do exactly what we did throughout the regular season with Rob Will that set up a lot of screens for him to roll off of. It's for him to, in a very underrated part of his game, is to have the ball in Rob Will's hands. When he has the ball, he's posted up. He is a very, very underrated passer. And if Brook Lopez is on his back, he could rub off him, he could spin off him, and he could find an open shot in the corner or the wing. And we had a lot of open shots, and I'm guaranteeing you guys, they are not going to miss the same amount of shots that they missed in game 1. And if they do, you might as well just call this series a loss because, we didn't play like a playoff team at all on Sunday. And Tuesday has to be different in the Garden. We're not supposed to be losing these games in the Garden, and game 1's a big one. Now we need to go into Milwaukee game 3 or game 4 and at least take one of those, and we need to go from there. But we knew Milwaukee was going to be a tough test. In my opinion, they're 10, 15 times better than the Brooklyn Nets are. They're a team. They have a fantastic coach, one of the best coaches in the league. They have guys that can get it from their 1 spot to their 7 or 8. They have a lot of potential to make another finals run. And I really think whoever wins this series is going to be in the finals. And it looks embarrassing, Will, after this first game, right? But I hope you can agree with me and branch off of this. The Celtics aren't done at all.
No, in fact, to start off, I was unfortunately unable to watch the game. I thought it was that night game for some reason, but I was at work during the day, so I was unable to watch the game, which I was kind of upset about.
Could say fake fan.
But I did see the box score. I watched some of the highlights. It was a mess, but I'm not worried. Game 2 needs to be the tone-setting game, which it usually is, but it really needs to be our tone-setting game. We really need to set the tone in game 2 for the rest of the series, and we really need to show who we are as a team and that we are a finals team, that we can make the finals and that we can win an NBA championship, because we looked nothing like that on Sunday. And we're not done. It isn't over. And
the Boston traffic was crazy.
The Boston traffic, yeah. That we are an excellent playoff team and that we should be expecting nothing but the best for this playoff run. And we really can come out in game 2, win this game, and end up winning the series. I'm honestly not worried yet. We just had a bad game. We were due for a bad game. We played, honestly, even though we swept the net, that was a tough series. We can't doubt that wasn't a tough series. The hype around it itself and all the commotion that happened just around the series was enough to drag out a team for more than the 4 games that we played against the Nets.
I think that's a perfect transition point into the next series, which is going to be another great series. Like I think each series besides Miami and Philly, I think Miami's going to win in 5 or 4. But the other 3 series, the other series that we have left, they're all going to be great series. And right after the Celtics lost, the Warriors and the Grizzlies faced off, and that was a great game. I mean, we had star power from both sides. Ja Morant, Jordan Poole, who is just awesome to watch. He went off. He had 31 points, almost a triple-double. Steph did his thing. But a point I wanted to start off talking about this game is Ja Morant getting a little too cocky? I feel like he's dancing all the time. I feel like he's not really taking this serious. But at the same time, a young team can really thrive off of that energy. And
the draft. I mean, we'll get to the draft in a minute, but there's something in the draft that's
I literally had to
laughing.
turn my I literally had to turn
I'm sorry. All right. Look, I guess we're gonna have to. No, this is good. We
We
needed
don't want
this.
to talk about this game. No, we need this. We need this. We're not
Okay.
editing this out.
No.
This is a podcast.
Can we somehow post the picture that I sent into this?
Yeah. I'll post that.
I saw you dying like middle of your take, and I just like, what is so funny? But I saw Griff laugh, and I looked down at my phone, and it's just like, what is going on?
No, but I'll carry through with what Stav was saying. When it comes to John Morant, his whole personality is his cockiness, and he knows he's good at basketball, and that's kind of what gets him through a game. Now, I think that at some points he does take it a little bit too far, but you can't. And I hate sounding like the old guys on the radio. That's literally the opposite what I want this podcast to be, because I mean we're some young guys. We know what it's like, and Will knows how I played sports throughout high school. I was a guy that liked to talk as well, but when it comes to an opponent shooting free throws and you're dancing on the court, it's like, are you trying to get loose, or are you trying to just like mess around right now? And there's been a lot of speculation of John Morant when it comes to, he comes out and then his team makes runs, and then he comes back in for the last few minutes and they fold it. It's to the point where when you're playing, especially against a team like the Warriors, you have to really lock in. And if you ever saw, oh no, I'm going to sound like an old person here. If you ever saw Kobe Bryant dancing on the floor, what would you say about him? What would you actually say about him? And I love John Morant. I absolutely love John Morant. I love his personality. I love how cocky he is. I don't love how cocky his dad is. I actually like LeVar Ball more than I like John Morant's dad. I'm not even gonna lie, because LeVar Ball had a plan for his sons. And now T Morant's dad, or T Morant, is just riding in his son's coattails. Like, LeVar Ball had a plan. T Morant is just, I mean, taking advantage of his opportunity. But like, that's just the kind of person he is. He's a cocky guy, but I just think at some point you need to lock in and really figure it out. And that's why they lost this game one. I watched this whole game. I can't put the blame of this game on anybody other than John Morant.
Just a comment on that really quickly. I like hate talking about like that kind of stuff in like an old head way, because like it's not at all what I think. But at the same time, like I saw the take like the other day after the T-Wolves series against the Grizzlies, and like the whole, like, I don't even know what to call it, but like him dancing and then Cat like blowing kisses to the fans. Like, people are talking about as the NBA transferred into like an entertainment league, and I'm just like, what kind of takes that we're on right now? Like, what are we like? And like, I can see it obviously. Like, the regular season, there needs to be something there that makes it a little bit more entertaining, because like, not besides the Celtics, it's kind of hard to watch every single like game, like, and actually enjoy it. Like, you just like we talked about the Lakers all year. I don't want to talk about them now, but I'm saying those games are awful to watch. But like, in the playoffs are already entertaining enough. Like, I don't need to see Ja Morant dancing on the sideline while someone's shooting a free throw. Like,
It wasn't
no
on the
offense to
sideline.
him,
He was
I
on
love
the
Ja
court.
Morant. No, yeah, I know. Like, I just like, I don't need to see that. Like the playoffs are already intense enough. Like, yes, it's nice to see, I guess. Like, if you're doing good, like, no hate, do you? Like, I honestly don't really care, but like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like an old head.
I would love to see him doing it when they're up 15, but when you're only up 3 points and you end up folding a game and you're dancing on the court during play, literally during play, like not going into a timeout, not in a break, like you're in the middle of a game and you're dancing, like that's actually something that I don't think we've ever seen in the NBA, in college basketball and basketball in general. That's not something we've ever seen, and it's good to see new things. But when it comes to
Win,
the
then
Grizzlies, it's not a
dance.
good thing. Yes, yes, I
Win and then
100%
do it.
agree with
Once you win, you can do whatever you want, in my opinion. Like,
that. Don't kill anybody.
yeah. Okay. Anyways, the NFL draft happened.
Yep. Smooth.
So, headlining the NFL draft, we started off George Pickens going to the Steelers. He just all right. I know this is not really the biggest headline. This is just our stupid brains loving this. And for those of you who are either watching on YouTube or even listening, you've probably heard a few moments of silence when we're just laughing. It's just because of George Pickens. So, if for those of you who haven't seen his draft video, he was standing in front of the TV waiting for his name to be called, wearing a mask, just like being an
Shiesty.
yeah, a shiesty, like just standing there. And it's like, I don't know what necessarily he's doing, but the AFC North has this like reputation amongst the league where that's like the fighting conference. Like they hate each other. That's like the only NFL conference that actually has rivalries that hate each other. And George Pickens fits perfectly with that whole narrative. So that's why we were laughing, because he's just he just shows up like an absolute menace. And then I saw a video after of him just getting into every single fight possible for Georgia. And he like literally took some guy from Georgia Tech's face, like his face mask, and threw him against the barrier.
And like, dude, he's awesome. Like, I love George Pickens. Like, he is a great player.
Yeah, I didn't know about this until now. Like, why isn't him being a menace like the most talked about thing in Georgia football history? Like, all right. Anyways, let's get back to the serious note. What do we think about Trayvon Walker going number 1 to the Jags? Because that was, I don't want to say it was surprising, because I think we all predicted that on the show, but was that the right pick?
I want to start us here. No. I think that in my lifespan, I'm gonna make a bold prediction, and this could really come back to bite me. But the fact that he's playing on the Jags makes me want to actually say it. This might be the worst number 1 pick we've ever actually seen. Like, he was, I mean, maybe the 5th, 6th best player on that Georgia defense. Like, he wasn't even the best player on his own team, and he's the number 1 pick. The only reason he got picked so high is because of how good he did at the combine. I think he had 9 career sacks throughout his career at Georgia. And then you look at somebody like Hayden Hutchinson, who had around 14, 15 just in his senior year and was a Heisman candidate. And we talked about this on the last episode before the draft started. Hayden Hutchinson, if you want to put it in golf terms, because you know it's golf season, Hayden Hutchinson is like kind of, say we're on a par 4, it's like taking a nice little hybrid, shitting it right down the pipe, right? Like, you know what you're gonna get. But Trayvon Walker, and this relates heavily to my golf game, we're gonna bring out the big stick and we're gonna go drive, and I'm gonna slice it 500 yards to the left. I think that has the potential. But maybe one in every 6, 7 tries, I actually get a good drive. I think that's exactly how this Trayvon Walker pick is gonna pan out. He's either gonna be terrible in an awful pick, or he's going to be one of the best players in the league. And I'm leaning towards the terrible side. I think Aiden Hutchinson is a lot better of a player than him. I think he's a more secure player, and I think the Lions got the best player in the draft stuff.
Yeah, that was a no-brainer. I think that was probably the quickest number 1 pick in NFL history. Or no, I'm sorry, the quickest first-round pick in NFL history. Because right when Trayvon Walker got selected, I think the pick was in
literally
the
right away.
Lions.
I think like, do you remember when the Eagles took Rager and there was the video of the Vikings laughing, and then they were like, all right, I guess we'll just go get Justin Jefferson. I think that's exactly what happened in the Lions war room.
And Aiden Hutchinson has played in Michigan for his entire football career, which I think is a cool, I think that's a very cool story. And I think that the Lions, first off, got 2 studs. Let me just say that Aiden Hutchinson is going to fit in perfectly with that Dan Campbell defense. he's one of those guys that Detroit's going to fall in love with. Just homegrown guy, a guy who's going to give you 100% effort every single time he's on the field. And then Jameson Williams, the top-rated receiver probably if he was fully healthy. So I'm really happy with how the Lions drafted, and I think they're in the right for giving Jared Goff one more chance with this offense. Because Jared Goff, a former number one pick in his own, they won a few games. That offense is pretty good. They have Hawkinson kind of as their number one guy, like the security blanket for Jared Goff.
For now.
Yeah, for now. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, who's a great back. I don't think Kerryon Johnson's still there.
I don't think so.
But
I want to say he's in Houston, but I'm just totally made that up. So.
And James
He might be in Houston.
Jameson Williams is there. So it's like they have a pretty good offense. And then Aiden Hutchinson at the helm of that defense, you got a lot of young talent in Detroit, and I think it's an exciting time to be a Detroit Lions football fan because Aaron Rodgers is probably going to, after his contract is up, that division is completely up for grabs. The Vikings really don't have a direction that they're going in because who knows what – they're just a 500 team, in my opinion. And the Chicago Bears are just a dumpster fire. And then after Rodgers leaves Green Bay, who knows? Maybe the Lions develop if they go on the trajectory that they're projected to go into. I'd be very excited if I was a Lions fan.
I wanted to say, with Aaron Rodgers on the current Packers team, that division is still up for grabs. I don't think that is his division necessarily. Like, I actually think if the Vikings can play something together, they will actually fight for that spot. Like, I don't think it's going to be easy for them. They don't really have much on that team right now.
They really don't. And getting rid of someone like Adams, who's, a top 3 receiver in this league is, terrible for someone like Aaron Rodgers, who's old. I tried to find a different word other than old, but he is old. Talking about the Lions, when you look at this team in general, it's a very young team. And you're right, Stav. They're trending in the right direction because they just picked up Jameson Williams, who probably will not see any field time. I think he's still going to be hurt come start of the season. Potentially get him in there halfway through the season. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who would be a great wide receiver too for him. And they also have DJ Chark, who's awesome.
He's on the. That's another. I forgot about Chark. I totally would have mentioned him in my little spiel about the Lions offense. Continue.
Yeah, and then looking at guys like TJ Hawkins and DeAndre Swift, that's a great core for Jared Goff to maybe get something going. And this is his last chance. This is his last year to be a starting quarterback in this league, and I think he's going to take good advantage of it. Looking at their defense, however, they have a couple of holes, which is expected. They're the Lions. They're not going to, automatically just have, oh my God, they have a 23-year-old at every position. Like, look at them progress together. The defensive tackle position is a position of need for them. Michael Brockers is all right. He's not going to be great. Aiden Hutchinson, like I said, is someone that's going to come in. He's going to get it done right away. But that other defensive end, they don't really have anybody there. I really do like their secondary. I like Tracy Walker and I like Deshaun Elliott. And I actually really do like their corners. Jeff Okuda is a guy that I never thought should have been drafted that high. If he can stay healthy, though, we saw some pretty good production from him last year until he got re-injured. And then looking at another guy, local guy, Ifeatu Melifonwu, is a guy that's young. He just finished up his rookie season, and he had a good season. He could potentially be a cornerback too. Now, I don't know if this is a little bit of bias for Melifonwu, but he had a great season in my opinion, and that's someone that I think that could be a good piece to this Lions defense. And I think that there's a few positions of need, like I said. One of those is another linebacker. One of those is a D end, a D tackle. But their offense, looking at their offense, they're good. They have Penei Sewell as well at right tackle. Maybe if they get a left tackle, they're going to be looking pretty good in this NFC North. When you're looking at teams, you're looking at the Bears, right? You're looking at the Vikings, who you know what you're going to get from the Vikings, and that's 8-8. Even though it's not possible to go 8-8 anymore, the Vikings are still going to find a way to go 8-8.
8-1.
And then the Bears suck, just straight up. There's nothing good about the Bears. They got rid of Khalil Mack. Now on the Bolts, go Bolts, bolt up. And then the Packers, like Will said, how confident really are you in the Packers? Even if they have Aaron Rodgers, who else do they really have? They don't have much. Not only did they get rid of Devontae Adams, like I said, they also got rid of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's now on the Chiefs. it's not looking good for them. And the Lions, I'm not saying that they're going to make the playoffs this year or the year after that, but come 3 years, if you let these guys progress together, and Dan Campbell, I believe, is a great coach. The Lions are going to be back to their Matthew Stafford and Megatron ways. I really, really, really do like the way that this team utilized the draft, and I think that the Lions won the draft this year. I think it was either the Lions or the Jets.
I
Agreed.
think, yeah, I mean, the Lions and the Jets, and I really like the Giants' first round. After
Yes.
that, they kind of fell off. If they had a stronger kind of back half of the draft, that second round pick, Wendell Moore, what's his name? I don't know. They drafted Kadarius Toney 2.0. So
Yes.
I don't know what they were going with that, unless they really expect you to trade Kadarius Toney.
No. The Giants got him. Remember?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the Lions. Sorry.
No. The Giants, yeah, they got Kadarius Toney 2.0, even though they have Kadarius Toney 1.0.
Yes, even though they already have him. Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know what their whole point with that was, but their first round getting Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan
Does he
Neal.
love football?
Great question. That I mean, the people who get paid more than us probably had to evaluate, and there's a lot of talent. And the thing with the NFL draft is it's all hype. If a guy had a good college career, fans of bad teams expect them to be amazing in the NFL, when we know that is not the case most of the time. How many times you get a first round pick that actually makes the Hall of Fame? It's 1 out of every 100? Like not even.
It's rare.
Probably, yeah. So I always see, especially Jets fans, who I am friends with a few Jets fans, but they get so hyped over the draft every single year just to be drafting high again. So don't get hyped unless these guys actually pan out. Like wait for them to develop. I mean, the Jets fans have been waiting for 15 years.
I want to talk about the Jets a little bit here. I was literally just talking to one of my closest friends here who's a Jets fan, and he's very excited, right? And I'm like, yeah, you should be, because you have guys that will bring you highlights, and you'll get 4 or 5 wins, and then we'll get a top 10 draft pick next year too. It'll be fun. Sauce Gardner is awesome. He's so cool, and he's actually a guy that I'm looking at, and I believe that this could be a guy that is going to go to Pro Bowls, right? I think he's a very good corner. I love the way that he plays. I love his personality. He could be a star, right? Like he could be a guy that makes money through endorsements more than he does through his contract. Garrett Wilson, another great pick. I don't think he's the best player on Ohio State. I think Olave is better, but I think Garrett Wilson has the better NFL measurements. Jermaine Johnson, last chance you from Florida State. That's a great pick to rush off the edge. You're looking at all these picks from the Jets, right? You got Breece Hall from Iowa State, great running back. And then you see that they didn't draft an offensive lineman. And not only that, and yes, I'm on account for hating BYU. Zach Wilson's terrible at football. Like, are we forgetting that just because they drafted all of these people that Zach Wilson's just going to magically be able to throw a ball, and he doesn't even have an offensive line in front of him? So if you get a guy that, I mean, I might rather have William on playing quarterback for me other than Zach Wilson. If you get someone like a Zach Wilson and you don't have an offensive line in front of him, that's literally the 2 worst possible things that could happen for your team. You can have all the skill positions in the world. You don't have a quarterback, you don't have an offensive line, you're still going to be terrible. So have fun with all your highlights, guys. And I'm happy to say that the Jets defense isn't going to be as bad, but their offense is going to be just exactly where they were last year, because you're just as good as your quarterback and your offensive line.
Exactly. Like you can have all these guys, but if your offensive line sucks, then how are the receivers supposed to get the ball? So if Zach Wilson has 0 time to throw the ball, don't expect anything to happen again.
If he has 5 seconds to throw the ball, don't expect anything either. He sucks.
Yeah, just don't.
He's not good at football. Like I don't know what anybody has ever said about him. Coastal Carolina literally ruined his life, and he's never going to be the same since.
That was a crazy game.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite college football team stuff. Coastal Carolina.
That was all right. Just a throwback to that game. That was just George Pickens like energy versus the
It's the Mullets versus the Mormons.
so
It's one of the greatest college football games ever played on teal turf.
let's talk about the Patriots draft for a second. I know obviously we'll get into the Seahawks draft from your perspective, but Will and I are obviously Patriots fans, and I'll give the Patriots a C- for this draft. I think that they addressed positions of need. However, they didn't really get the right guys. And the Patriots, we all know that they evaluate draft by position, not or by player, not by best available, stuff like that. So that doesn't work. I looked at the most recent first round picks for the Patriots, and let me just list them off. Starting with Dominique Easley, Malcolm Brown, Isaiah Wynn, Sony Michel, N'Keal Harry, Mac Jones.
I knew two
Mac
of those,
Jones.
or I know three of those, and two of them was because of bad things.
Mac
Yeah.
Jones and Isaiah Wynn are the only starters remaining from that. So and let's add Cole Strange to that list because Cole Strange hypothetically is going to be a starter. Hopefully will be a starter if they saw this out of him. So what is going on with the Patriots draft? Because Griff,
Wait.
I want to hear your outside
Okay.
perspective, and then Will, I want to hear your
Perfect.
perspective.
Perfect. No, because I was about to interrupt Will if he was about to say something because I'm excited to talk about this draft class from the New England Patriots. I think that Tyquan Thornton they got with the 50th pick, I think he's better than Cole Strange. I think that if they took him at 29, that honestly would have been more like acceptable than Cole Strange. I think Cole Strange is someone that has potential though, right? An offensive lineman, I could see him playing a guard position or filling any position of need. I actually don't know. Like he's terrible. Like I've actually never heard of this guy in my life. He's from Chattanooga. They make March Madness here and there. They're the mocks. He stinks. But Tyquan Thornton is good. I like Tyquan Thornton. He has a lot of speed, good route running, potential wide receiver one. I'm going to say it. I think he has the potential to actually be a wide receiver one. I don't know who Marcus Jones is from Houston, but he's 5'8". So if you're 4 inches shorter than me and you're in the NFL, then you got to be pretty athletic. Same with Jack Jones. They just love the Joneses. My favorite pick from this draft as an outsider is Bailey Zappi. He's a guy that I watched a lot in college, and I know what you're thinking. He went to Western Kentucky. Why'd you watch him? The kid threw for like 6,000 yards in his senior year, and he threw like 50 touchdowns. He was literally like one of the most electric players in college football, and I actually watched a lot of him. And I think he's a guy that could, I mean, he fits like the scale of like an NFL size quarterback. Like he's 6'1", 220, throws the ball, can move out of the pocket a little bit, and he has an absolute rocket for an arm. He's going to be a great backup to Mac Jones, and I think he's a guy that he's going to get a shot at some point on a different team, and the Pats are going to be able to flip this guy for a couple of good pieces. I think that Bailey Zappi is a guy that you need to look at in the 4th round, and you need to look at him not as a person, but just as the football player. And you need to see that you can get potential from a guy like this, even if you already have Mac Jones. People were confused by this. This is a guy that you can trade, and someone's going to give him a shot just because of the numbers that he put up in college. And I think overall, would you give this stuff a C-?
Overall draft, yeah, C-.
I'm gonna give this a strong C-. So like almost a C. And I think that Cole Strange was a reach. Other than that, I pretty much like the picks.
No, I'm looking at the big board hypothetically. Cole Strange at the time was the 3rd ranked guard on that list. I don't hate the pick because we haven't seen him play. You know, I kind of like to reserve my judgment.
Exactly.
I like to reserve my judgments for picks for after they actually start to play. And a lot of people are hating the fact that they didn't go get a linebacker. I mean, I wanted Nakobe Dean. Everyone did. But he's definitely hurt. There's no way a first-round prospect slips to the bottom of the 3rd round unless there's something wrong. So let's talk about the Patriots linebackers for a quick second. They have Cam McGrone coming back from injury, another linebacker out of Michigan, flies around the field that everybody forgot about. Raekwon McMillan, another young piece that they got from the Raiders who was out all of last year. They have Juwan Bentley for a goal line linebacker who should only be playing when they're going downhill, when it's like 4th and inches and it's a guaranteed run up the middle. That's the only time Juwan Bentley should be on the field. And they have like guys like Josh Uche who are defensive ends who can drop into coverage. Matt Judon's still there. And they're going to rely on these guys to actually step up and play. So I don't hate the fact that they didn't draft a linebacker. I would have preferred if they got Nakobe Dean, but it didn't work out that way. It happens. So, Will, give me your kind of final thoughts on the Patriots draft.
I'm gonna grade it first, and then so I'm gonna go C plus. I'm not mad, but I'm actually happy that we made some moves that actually look promising. Like, honestly, I can't say too much about picking Cole Strange with our first round pick because we haven't seen him play, like you said, Stop. I don't really know what he's gonna pan out to be. He could be really good. Obviously, he was third ranked, so I can't discredit that too much. Yes, we reached, but when do we not? So I feel like I have to be ready for that at all times. But I make it a C plus because I love Tyquan Thornton and I absolutely love Marcus Jones. Those are two solid picks for us, and I feel like those are going to help us very, very in the long run.
Good point there, Will. But to speak on Marcus Jones, still don't know who he is. And that's my fault, right? That's the kid from Houston, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, best team up there with SMU when it comes to the American Football Conference, and I actually am a big fan of the American Football Conference. It's just not a name that I know of. But I know how good that defense has been from Houston for years. So it is a guy, if you actually know who he is, to look forward to. But if you guys don't have anything more with the Pats, I'd like to talk a little bit about my team.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to the Pacific Northwest here in Seattle. Excuse me. The Seahawks, I'll take the Will approach. I'll give the grade first, a B. I'm gonna give them a B. I really, really like this draft. And looking at all of our picks, straight up, I see 5 guys that could actually start, maybe 6 or 7 guys that are going to be on this roster, right? You look at Charles Cross, who's going to be our left tackle. I think that he was up there, and he deserved to be a top 10 pick. I think that he was on a team that threw the ball very well, and they ran the ball very well as well. And he was a major part of that, being at left tackle. Boye Mafe, who I thought there was a couple different selections that they could have made here. Boye Mafe is a guy that I overreacted about in a bad way. We were all together during this draft pick, and it was just my biases. I wanted a couple different people here, and one of those guys was Nakobe Dean, and obviously he fell. Boye Mafe, if you watch his tape, he's an absolute dog. He is someone that fits in. I don't know the name of the position that Pete Carroll calls it, but Pete Carroll just made up this D-end edge rusher position, and we've been pretty successful with it. We haven't had somebody like that, and I think Boye Mafe is a guy that could be a starter for us literally week 1. Come next season, and a big part of that is obviously we don't have anybody to fill that position, but I think he's going to get some quality reps from us. Kenneth Walker, we took with the next pick in the second round, running back for Michigan State. He wasn't the first running back taken, but he was one of the best running backs in all of college football last year. He is the most exciting running back in this class. I don't think he was the best. I think he was the second best, but I think he's the most exciting. He has the most potential, breakout plays in the game. Kenneth Walker, I think straight up right after we drafted him, on my board, on Griffin's personal running back board for the Seattle Seahawks, it goes number 1, Kenneth Walker, the third. It goes number 2, Rashad Penny, and it goes number 3, Chris Carson. I think this is a guy that could start for us, that could win this job in the preseason. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on his ability. I think he's way better than Chris Carson. I also am one of the Seahawks fans that thinks that Chris Carson isn't good. Abraham Lucas, I'm sorry for going into super depth about this, but there's a lot of starting quality guys that we got because we're not a good team. Abraham Lucas, Washington State, keep it local. He's a guy that's going to start for us at right tackle if Dwayne Brown doesn't come back. Kobe Bryant, awesome pick in the 4th round. He's a guy that's going to be our cornerback too. That's my guess. Tariq Woolen, going to do good on special teams, might find his way in the nickel, who knows. But he has great size at cornerback. He could guard tight ends. He could guard big outside wide receivers. Tariq Smith, a guy that's going to get in 100% in the 5th round. And then looking at Bo Melton from Rutgers, he's going to be our return man. I'm guessing he's going to make the roster, and he's going to be our return man. Seattle has struggled with returning in the past few years. This is the perfect weapon to put back there. And then Derek Young, our last pick. I'm sorry for talking about every pick once again. From Lenore-Reen. You guys also have a guy from Lenore-Reen, the D2 college. You guys got Kyle Duggar. So this is the offensive Kyle Duggar. So maybe he might make the team. But I really like all of our draft picks. If any of you guys have any outsider information or outsider kind of look through at this pick, because I don't know if these are my biases, but I think we had a pretty good draft.
Yeah.
No, I love the Kenneth Walker pick. I think, like you said, he's electric. Like,
Yep.
he's a guy who's capable of rushing for 100 yards and getting you 2 touchdowns every time he steps on the field. So they have kind of a direction that they're trending in. You know, their offense is young, their offense is fun. The quarterback's still a question mark as of now, because I've seen conflicting reports saying it's either Geno Smith's leading that battle.
I have something to say about that, actually. Sorry for interrupting you. This is quick. Tank for Bryce Young. That's what I have to say about our quarterback situation.
That'd be awesome too. You know, Bryce Young. Imagine that offense. It's DK, Bryce Young,
And there's CJ Stroud from Ohio State.
Yeah,
There's some names in the next draft class.
Yeah, next year's draft class for quarterbacks is a lot more strong than this one, which I don't really hate the fact that the Seahawks didn't draft a quarterback. You know, if they were going to draft a quarterback, it was either going to be Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder. I mean, you want to throw in Matt Corral, but like I don't think he kind of fits that mold.
We talked about the Seahawks quarterbacks. He doesn't fit in our system.
So
he doesn't.
They're going in the right direction. If I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm excited for the future, especially if this season doesn't pan out, then next season you get your quarterback of the future.
100%. I'm very happy with the way that we drafted. We did something that we haven't done in 10 years, and that's draft some tackles. We got 2 big boys, Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, that I really think that are going to come in and be our starting tackles, and I think it's going to be great for them to get the experience and grow together. The bad thing about the Seahawks is when you look at their holes, for years it didn't say tackle, it didn't say guard, it didn't say center, it just said the whole offensive line. So we still have a couple of pieces that we need to fix up on that offensive line. But adding 2 tackles, those are the most important positions on an offensive line. I think those are 2 guys that are starter quality players, and I'm very happy that we got someone like an Abraham Lucas in the 3rd round. That's a big pickup for us. Will, looking at the Seahawks defense, because we know how that the Seahawks offense is going, right? They're going to be young. They should be pretty exciting now. I think they did a good job to fill up those holes with youth in the draft this year on offense. But when you look at defense, a big hole that we saw last year and the year before that was our defensive line. And when it comes to Boye Mafe, and then you look at the 5th round Tyreke Smith from Ohio State, what kind of sense of fulfillment do you see from this draft when it comes to the defensive line? Do you really think these are 2 guys that, from an outside look, could really fill in and grow together on the edges from both of them and potentially be starters for the Seahawks?
I mean, I really don't see why not. I mean, I feel like the Seahawks wouldn't have went out and drafted a guy right now that they don't see potential in, as the current situation of the Seahawks. I feel like you just can't do that. I feel like a lot of teams that are already up there and already have guys, they have their 2 picks that they want, or they have their 1 pick that they want, and they're ready to make that move and ready to have that guy play for them. I feel like all the rebuilding teams that made their moves, all those guys are like hopefully going to be starters for their respective teams that they got drafted to, if not more than half of the guys they drafted, depending on how many picks each team got. Like, we look at all these other teams that drafted like multiple guys, like especially like, I mean, look at the Jets, who we think had one of the best drafts. Like, those guys are all going to be starting for them. I would expect the same for the Seahawks, and I feel like because you guys are rebuilding, next year is always there too. As like, not fun as that is to say, but there always is more opportunity, and if not all of them, there still should be most that pan out.
And you know what, Will? I've turned into the optimistic side, where going into this draft, I literally wrote on my notes app like a while ago, 4 things of need that I would like to see the Seahawks take in this draft. Number one was tackle, and we took 2 of those. And I think those are 2 guys that are going to start, both of them. One at left, Charles Cross, and one at right with Abraham Lucas. And then I also said number 2 was cornerback, where I really hated our cornerbacks last year. Kobe Bryant is awesome from Cincinnati. He wasn't obviously the best Cincinnati corner, but when you look at what they did as a collective on that defense, Kobe Bryant was low-key a big part of that. Sauce Gardner, obviously a lot better, but Kobe Bryant, who weighs up at 6'1", almost 200 pounds, he can move awesomely. And then they picked up Tariq Woolen, who's a big corner, kind of like a Richard Sherman type, who I don't think is going to necessarily be a starter, but I think he has a chance to make the team. And then the last 2 positions I said were D-end, who we got in Boye Mafe, and Tyreek Smith. We got 2 of them, which is awesome. We needed 2 of them. And then returner, which is exactly what we got in Bo Melton. I'm guessing, he's a 7th-round pick. You guys haven't seen Bo Melton highlights, but a Big Ten team. He's returned kicks for his whole career at Rutgers, and that's a guy who could potentially make the team through special teams and actually be pretty good through there. So I'm very excited with the way that the Seahawks took the draft this year, and they're definitely planning for the future. And I plan to see them utilize next year's draft as well, like you said, Will. And I think if we keep going through this draft, it's going to be a fun year this year. It's not going to be a lot of wins, but we're going to have a lot of moments as a team, and we're going to see our young guys really progress. And that's exactly what we need. And keeping a guy like DK is big. But I mean, I love Tyler Lockett. I want to see him there this year. If we could trade him after this year and just straight up just get as young as possible, that would be awesome. But I think the Seahawks are really I think they took the most perfect step that they could possibly take after moving on from Russell Wilson.
Agreed.
Let's kind of transition to other NFL news. That I actually love this signing. The Saints signed Tyrann Mathieu. The contract details will be released later this week. But the Saints defense is something that definitely should be noted. I mean, they got a lot of good pieces on that defense, and that defense seems as if they can kind of carry them throughout a season, especially if that offense can stay stagnant. Or like not stagnant, if that offense can perform. What do you guys think about the signing? Is this something that teams in the NFC South should actually be worried about if like Tyrann Mathieu? Because he's one of those guys who he's always around the ball. He has a knack for the ball. He's a history with Brady in the Super Bowl, and the other 2 teams really aren't good. So what do we think? Does this make the Saints contenders in the NFC South, or?
I wouldn't say contenders, but I'd say they're a lot dangerous than they were before they had Tyrann Mathieu. Obviously, he's a Pro Bowler, a great player. And what the Saints were looking for in this draft was a safety. Really, in my opinion, the only starting caliber safety is Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, and they didn't go out and get him. So Tyrann Mathieu was a guy they were talking to before the draft. They stopped for a little bit, and they came up. They secured him. And I think that's a very big move for the Saints. I think if Jameis Winston can give us 25 touchdowns, this is a team that, I think drafted quite well as well. Other than grabbing a safety, they grabbed a wideout, right? What wideout did they grab?
Drake London. Wait, are we saying
Drake London?
You said the Falcons, right?
No, Saints.
Oh, the Saints didn't get Drake London. They got
Chris Olave.
Yes,
and then they went and they got Trevor Penning as well, who is one of the best tackles in the draft. I think they did good with those 2 picks. They didn't really have a ton of picks in this draft. But they're a team that I could actually see in the wild card this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're a good team. Like, if Jameis can stay healthy, that's a pretty good team that definitely people. I mean, they were a game out of the wild card last year. If 49ers lost that game to the Rams, in which they should have, to be honest, the Rams kind of blew that lead. The Saints very well could have been in the playoffs. And if Jameis was healthy all year, that Saints team was actually looking very dangerous.
They definitely are.
And I think it's a good pickup for them. Like, honestly, solid.
And I think that wraps up this episode. I'm gonna lob it up to Griff to close it out.
I got you. Sitting at about an hour and a half. We hope you guys enjoyed. Lots of laughter in this episode. If you guys want to see what we were laughing at, they will be posted on Twitter. These pictures. So Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed. We'll catch you after 3 more Red Sox losses on Friday. And peace.
Peace.
Peace.